What up? And welcome to another episode of From the Script to the Screen. So welcome to My Hero edition of From the Script to the Screen. Season 6, Episode 9 is out. As always, disclaimer, make sure you watch the episode before anything. This episode, like I said before, is covering chapters 282, 3, 4, and 5 of volume 29. So basically finishing off the volume. If you've seen the episode, which is why I wanted to say the disclaimer, now you recognize the cover of volume 29, why the scene is like cool, plays a role to this and things like that. So glad that it finally showed up. And getting right into the episode, action-packed episode. As always, shout out to Studio Bones. I appreciate them for the work that they've done, fleshing out the panels of the manga a little more, letting us see more details of the battle, being able to understand it more and things like that. At this point, I feel like the battle has kind of reached like its climax or like its peak for the reasons of the main theme of the fight, or basically why everything has even happened, is kind of rearing its head, and it's kind of at a point right now. So that's kind of why I feel like this is an important sequence in the battle. So getting right into it, a panel that I enjoyed this week was the panel with Eraserhead. So like I said in the beginning, and why I feel like the battle is kind of reaching its peak and everything is starting to kind of come to a point, is because we know that the villains were caught off guard. But even though they were caught off guard and it appeared that the heroes were kind of having the upper hand at the beginning, at this point we know that the villains do have a lot of things at their disposal that the heroes weren't really aware of, kind of weren't prepared for, which is something that we'll get into later. And we see here, like I said before, some of the villains are showing us why they're stars. Shigaraki being the main one, being able to fight against so many strong heroes at once. We gotta give it out to him. And we see here that he still had something, he still had a trump card, which was basically these rounds that could remove your quirk. We've seen him before. He used it against Togota, if I'm saying his name correctly, but the other third year. And we know that if he was able to use this bullet on Eraser, he'd basically get the upper hand in the battle. So it was cool to see Eraserhead take such action right away. Even Shigaraki had to give his props to Eraserhead, because even though you would think that he would lose his quirk being hit with the bullet right away, we see that he took care of it. So that's why you got to give it out to Eraserhead. Like I said, some of the heroes during this sequence, we see that they're really about the job and they go above and beyond. But like I said, keeping up with the same theme of the villains and the fact that they do have the upper hand at this point, another one of my favorite panels that I wanted to get into was the panel with Makia, because even though the students did kind of try to apprehend them in the last episode, we do still see that, again, the villains are also able to, power up and things of that sort. And Makia was a perfect example. We know that he has 6 quirks, and he's basically like the best bodyguard you could ever ask for. And he still had something up his sleeve also. So he's still basically rampaging, still going on, still trying to get to Shigaraki. And we see here in this panel, and like I said, in that panel, we see that Makia still has some things up his sleeve, still has some gas left in the tank. And just because he's outnumbered doesn't mean that they'd be able to stop him. And we see that he still keeps on going. So something that I also wanted to speak about with Eraserhead, basically having to handicap himself. We see with Makia that the casualties and basically the destruction that the villains wanted to cause, they're basically able to do it. We see that even though the heroes tried to take precaution and tried to basically avoid civilian casualties and things like that, we see that the heroes are losing heroes themselves, losing numbers themselves. We saw Crust, get taken care of by Shigaraki and other heroes in the laboratory. We see that now with Maki are basically running through these cities, that they're civilian casualties at this point. So we do see that, the villains are successful. That's why something that's interesting to me is that the heroes are kind of questioning themselves at this point, wondering if they went about things the right way. But I don't judge the heroes, because I ask myself at what point it was going to happen either way. That's really the only thing you can tell yourself. Either way, the villains were preparing themselves for this. It was just a matter of time. They either were caught off guard and responded the way they did, or they would have been able to prepare themselves better and been able to wreak more havoc without the heroes even being able to stop them or be prepared themselves. So either way, it was kind of an inevitable cause. It was going to happen either way. But it's interesting to see that the heroes are questioning themselves and wondering if they went about things the right way. And I would love to know what other people in the community think about it, because, like I said, I feel like it was going to happen either way. And last but not least, speaking about good and evil kind of coming to a head, we know that Shigaraki at this point is somebody that he kind of just wants to set the world on fire, wants to destroy everything. But we also know that All For One, who was his mentor, and we see throughout these episodes that is someone that is still has his hands on Shigaraki, is trying to just get one for all, trying to get his hands on Deku. But I enjoyed the ending of the episode because it was a dope sequence. These are some of the moments I know the manga community was looking forward to seeing animated, and I think the studio, shout out to Bones, did a great job, because we do see that even though Deku was going all out and was doing his best to inflict damage on Shigaraki again, more similar to All For One, and it's something that needs to be more understood, that Shigaraki is basically a bioengineered Superman at this point. Because not only does he have immense power, immense strength, he also has amazing regeneration and things of that sort. So that is why he is such a force, because not a lot of people are able to deal with that. So even though Deku is going all out trying to inflict damage, we see that Shigaraki is still able to withstand it, but he is getting hurt himself. One of the last things we see again, him pull out, we see that he still has a trump card up his sleeve, was the scene with Endeavor and Bakugo, one of my favorite panels. One of my favorite moments towards the end of the episode, and one of my favorite moments of the story, because a lot of things come to play in this little scene. One thing is, we see that Endeavor and All Might's relationship are similar to Deku and Bakugo's. Something that was interesting is that we see Bakugo having a conversation with All Might, talking about how he felt that Deku had things that he didn't have, and since he wasn't able to acknowledge his weaknesses, it's kind of why he decided to bully Deku and kind of keep him at an arm's distance. Kind of the same situation with him and Endeavor, All Might and Endeavor. And I think that, All Might lets him know that there are certain situations that make them see things in another light, make them understand that even though that they do consider themselves to be very powerful, All Might and Deku's willingness to basically sacrifice themselves for the greater good is something that I think Bakugo and Endeavor didn't necessarily agree with or see or basically understand at some point. So that's kind of how they're similar. But I think it's cool to see how much they've changed. We see it with Endeavor throughout this whole sequence, and we've seen it with Bakugo, with what he does at the end of the episode, and the fact that they are kind of starting to put in the term of hero first and themselves behind, and they're starting to basically, trying to really be the best that they can be as heroes. So it's something I appreciated seeing. But with that being said, we are left on another cliffhanger. Can't wait to see what happens next week. Would love to know what y'all think, man. But again, dope episode. Shout out to Bones. Shout out to Horikoshi for the story. And we'll see what happens, man. Peace.